Hello everyone, this is Katie Colleen here. Welcome back, Colleen Clan, or if you are new, then come join the family for this year's Halloween special. Halloween is my favorite holiday. That's because I run a cosplay YouTube channel. Okay, I cosplay year round. I don't just get into costume for Halloween, I get into costume multiple times a month, every single month. And then I record that and I put it on the internet. So you could say I like cosplay a not normal amount. So this is the one time of the year that I am tolerated by those around me. For this year's Halloween special, I want to keep with the channel tradition of making a mobility aid decoration for Halloween. There was a year that I made Halloween themed crutch covers, and then I made Captain America shield wheels. And this year, I want to make pumpkin wheels, which is exactly how it sounds. I want to put pumpkins onto the wheels of my wheelchair. Let's just dig into how I'm going to bring these pumpkin wheels to life. This fabric is the star of the show. It is a kind of fleece soft fabric and it has pumpkins on it. I have some leftover felt as a stiffening layer. So you will not actually see this, but it will provide structure so that our pumpkin stays ripe. Last fabric is this one. I can't really tell you what this is going to be used for yet because I'm not really sure. But I have this sheer fabric with little like velvet pumpkins on it and I think it's the absolute cutest. I'm thinking this could be a wheelchair back decoration or just something I kind of drape over the chair at the end. I have made many a wheel cover on this channel. If you are looking to make wheel covers, spoke covers, things on your wheelchair, and you are looking for a step-by-step tutorial, I have one. This video will give you directions on how to pattern and sew and create your own wheel cover. The video I'm filming right now is really more just Colleen messes around and finds out. I wanted to try something a little bit different. I felt like just making a normal plain pair of wheel covers would be boring. It's been done before. So I want to try three-dimensional wheel covers, as I am going to be calling them for this video. I want to not just make wheel covers, but more like wheel cover plushies. Wheel pillows, perhaps? Wheel covers stuffed with stuffing, the plushies. Okay, basically a plushie pumpkin coming out the side of my wheel and just rolling along with me. That's the vision. There also will be a cosplay that I'm wearing to go with these wheel covers. I have a little hint right here in the background, but we will get into that later. To start, I will be cutting out our felt stabilizer to the size of my wheelchair wheel. Then I'm going to cut out our pumpkin fabric just a little bit bigger. In the world of sewing, there are a few ways that you can make a three-dimensional shape. So it could be something like making a dart, where you bring in the bottom edges so that you have a little bit more fabric at the center, and it can kind of stick up like this. Another option, which is gathering. So imagine a whole bunch of little tiny darts that go around the edge, and then there's a little bit more space at the center. Both of these methods would require a bit more math and planning on my part in order to get a really big three-dimensional shape. So we're gonna take it a little bit simpler in this video. I did cut out the outer layer with about like 1/4 of an inch extra, just so I could kind of, as I'm sewing, do maybe some little gathers. I could gather it just a little bit down, but not enough that I'd need to drastically change the pattern. And maybe next year's Halloween, I will make a humongous pumpkin that goes a whole foot off the side of my wheelchair, but that is not for this Halloween. Ugh. Polyfill, it's for like stuffed animals and pillows and stuff. And while I'm stuffing our pumpkins, I want to talk a little bit about last year's Halloween because I didn't make a Halloween special last year. And to this day, I am still filled with regret about it. As someone who runs a cosplay YouTube channel, October is a busy time. A lot of people have put together that people dress up in costume for Halloween, so wouldn't it be a great time to have cosplay related events? I'm able to understand that line of reasoning. However, it has kind of turned into me having multiple cosplay events around that time, multiple cosplay collabs, and also it's around the time that I have a few brand collabs come in, a few brand deals, because brands are trying to sell their Halloween costumes, and who better to do influencer marketing for Halloween costumes than someone who dresses up year round. So last year, I wasn't really prepared for how busy I was going to be. I ended up doing 2 cosplay collabs, attending 3 different conventions or events, and I did 2 brand deals. Overall, I ended up debuting 5 new costumes in a month. It was a really, really busy time. And I understand, looking back on it, I did not have the time to make a Halloween video. I swore never again would I be so busy I could not do a Halloween special on my channel. So this year, I kind of took it to an extreme in the opposite direction. I am not attending a single con this month. And I also really pulled back on collabs. I'm doing one like Halloween video collab thing. It's virtual. That's it. I kind of expected that a lot more brand deals would come in this year since I've grown a more significant following, but that just didn't really pan out. I also just figured I should do some advanced planning, just so if things did get busy, I would have everything ready. The cosplay I will be wearing with this video, I purchased in spring. Okay, this looks like a bit like a pumpkin pie. So this is like, even with just that tiny bit of gathering, this is a pretty impressive 3D shape, don't you think? Like, look at that. Looking at our pumpkin pillow thing, this is a bit too thick for me to stick under a sewing machine. So to make our pumpkin ridges, I'm shifting about our stuffing to create a line where there is minimal stuffing. I'm pinning that and then sewing a straight stitch. This was still a bit of an ordeal for my sewing machine, but I was able to shift around the stuffing enough. I was still able to at least get it under the sewing machine and sew that straight stitch. I've brought our special guest Walter the wheelchair in here so I can do a little bit of fitting and regret my choices. So we have 2 pumpkins now. This is a pumpkin. This, you know when you go to the grocery store in October and they have pumpkins, and then there's also like seasonal squashes is what I call it. Like, it's like the little butternut squashes and all the little bumply squashes, and I'm not really sure how you eat those or what you do with them, but they always have squashes and they're really weird shapes. I would put this in the seasonal squash container at the grocery store instead of the pumpkins. This is the first one I made, which was a struggle, and before making the second wheel cover, I took out a ginormous handful of the polyfill. I have overstuffed this, and you don't really notice as much until I put it on the wheel. You can see it doesn't really fit on the wheel, and the more I try and stretch it into place, the more it just is not quite working. So I'm going to quickly, at least quickly for you, unpick our seasonal squash and turn it into a nice round pumpkin that can fit on the round wheels of my chair. With our pumpkins, I would like to add a face onto the pumpkin, a little Halloween pumpkin face. My current plan is that I will sew the face on in the same way that I sewed the ridges. I'll just kind of like move some of the stuffing out of the way in the place that I want to sew the little eyes and mouth, and then I will just applique it on. And yes, I realized by putting a pumpkin face on here that at some point, as the wheel turns, the pumpkin face will be upside down, and for whatever reason, I find that peak humor. For my Geel chair build, I have a little plushie that sits inside the Geel chair, and he rolls round and round, and I think that is the funniest thing ever. So yes, I'm not only aware that we will have upside down pumpkin faces, I am counting on it. It's a Halloween pumpkin! I'm just gonna leave it like this. As someone who is usually very, very bothered by having any sort of rough edges, I would usually do an applique stitch over the edges or a zigzag or like something to kind of clean up these rough edges. But I really like it like this. It really is like carved pumpkin to me. Also, I am realizing the toll this project is taking on my sewing machine. Oh. Multiple times now, my sewing machine has given me the error. Pressure foot is too high. Basically, this is too thick. We can't sew this. So I'd have to kind of go and like move the stuffing around to try and make it a little bit thinner. So we have one more pumpkin left to do, and I feel like I should do a different face on the second pumpkin. Just because like if I'm gonna have to make two pumpkin faces, might as well make them different. I knew I wanted like the classic Halloween pumpkin face. I think I might do like a scarier pumpkin face on this one. So I ran out of black thread on one of these, right? Usually you have like a sewing machine thread spool, right? I ran out of black, but I have a lot of black serger thread. So let me show you a little trick I do when I need black thread off of a serger spool. Okay, so here's our bobbin. It's winding, right? Okay. So it's coming through the needle. Where is it winding from? There it is! After sewing pumpkin face number 2, we now get to my least favorite part of making wheel covers, which is all of the tedious stuff you gotta do to make them actually functional and attaching to the wheelchair. So I'm sewing a whole bunch of these little orange tabs. Then I gotta sandwich those into our wheel cover. I gotta line it properly so that we have, you know, good sewing craftsmanship on these pumpkin wheels. And then I'm going to hand sew some snaps onto all of our little tabs. So I wanted to use this fun fabric, little pumpkins, but I didn't really want to sew anything together. The wheel covers, those will stay on all of October, maybe longer. Wheelchair back decorations I generally only use for the photo shoot, and that's it. Just because I really need to have my eat-a bag with my things to be on the back of my wheelchair. So the way you do it is you're gonna need about like a yard cut of fabric. So then this goes around like this. Safety pin. And I'm just gonna take kind of the outer edges and pin them together like this. And that will be our wheelchair back decoration veil. What I really like about this method is I can take the safety pin out and I still have my yard cut of fabric, and I could turn this into a dress someday or something. So if you've not already guessed, this is Mirta from Winx Club. So when we meet Mirta, she is studying witchcraft at the Cloud Tower School for Witches. But she's a cinnamon roll. Plain and simple, she is too sweet for this world. And she ends up befriending our fairies, the Winx Club, and as punishment, the antagonist turns her into a pumpkin. And she is a pumpkin for a while, until Flora uses her nature fairy powers to turn her back into a person. And after being turned into a pumpkin, Mirta, realizes she is just too much of a cinnamon roll to be a witch. So she transfers to Althea's School for Fairies, and she becomes a fairy. We don't really see her much. After she switches to Althea, we get like a few glimpses of her fairy form, and that's it. So, Mirta. I believe this is Winx Club cosplay number 8. Not that anyone's counting. And as I mentioned earlier, I bought this all the way back in spring. So I saw this cosplay for sale on Instagram from Anna Karina of Winx. I will not be making a tutorial on this because I did not make it. I just bought this secondhand from another cosplayer. I did do a handful of alterations for fit, but that's pretty much it. The wig came from Amazon and I did style it myself. And then for the jewelry, this is from a small business, so I want to make sure I shout them out. For Mirta's necklace, it comes from Farah's Creations off of Etsy. Oh yeah. This is a pair of witch stompers for sure. I've decided to call these my witch stompers. Cause why bother with magic when you can just stomp on your enemies? So I'm gonna pair it with my big demonia boots. So I believe it is time for our final reveal of the pumpkin wheels. These wheel covers came together really fast and relatively painlessly, so I feel like I can't judge them too harshly. I was able to knock them out in a single week, and I think they look okay. I only had to pull the seam ripper out once or twice. I think that's a win. I learn something new every time, and I've now learned how to attach wheel-sized plushies to my wheelchair, which I think is pretty cool. So thank you guys so much for watching. Happy Halloween, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!